task I have, and that is to just speak briefly about our Affordable Housing Loan Fund, which is our major impact investment of $3 million to SEFA Social Finance. And I just wanted to set a bit of context before I ask their CEO, Ben Gales, to come up and actually launch the fund. A quote from the Social Investment Task Force last year: "The world is on the brink of a revolution in how we solve society's toughest problems. The force capable of driving this revolution is social impact investing, which harnesses entrepreneurship, innovation and capital to power social improvement." So I've been asked why we thought it was important to launch a loan fund for affordable housing. And I think if you think of a foundation and the grants we make from the income on investments, and then you think of those investments, you think if they could be aligned and the actual capital could align with our mission, we could do a lot more. And this is a small step of allocating up to 1.5% of our asset allocation to impact investing, and this is part of that project. So it's been a long journey. We've worked with the investment committee for about 2 years, thinking very carefully about how this could work for our foundation and where we could make a difference. So it hasn't been a hasty decision, but I think it's an exciting one. We want to provide another source of finance for affordable housing projects, and we want to enable SEFA to get new projects off the ground and leverage other sources of finance into projects. There's a real need to scale up our response to affordable housing in Australia. The critical issue, I met with the Homelessness Coordination project leads last week, and they said we can sort everything out in the short term, but in the end there's not enough supply of affordable housing. That is our goal, is to really help leverage that change. We understand that some projects might need some capacity building support from us or from SEFA along the way. But foundations in the US, Canada and the UK have been using their capital to increase the pipeline of affordable housing for some years, and we want to do that in Australia. I'll invite Ben Gales, the CEO of SEFA, to talk about the mechanisms and provide examples, and I know he's even brought application forms with him. SEFA will be managing the fund and making all the investment decisions, but the first hurdle will be that the social impact of any project makes sense, and we will be involved in that. The fund policy is linked to our affordable housing impact area, and the objective is to support creative responses to increase the supply of social and affordable housing to help prevent homelessness. The fund includes a special focus on young people, families and older people, including women. So I'd like to welcome Ben.
Thank you, Catherine. Hello all. Firstly, can I just acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'm delighted to be here today to launch the Affordable Housing Fund, and delighted to get the support of Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. So firstly, let me just explain who SEFA are. So we are a social finance organisation. So as Catherine said, this is not about grant funding. This is about using commercial funds to achieve charitable outcomes. So we support social enterprises across Australia. And there are some examples here, chosen because these are examples across the housing and crisis accommodation space. So we've supported Janet in Cairns, providing crisis accommodation, people escaping domestic violence, family violence, and also leaving drug, alcohol issues. We've supported Simon in Brisbane with King Street Haven. Again, short-term crisis accommodation. Here it's often people leaving parolees, leaving prison, or people with family breakups that need somewhere to live. We've supported sustained community housing, where it's the construction of social housing stock. And what Josh is doing is he's building 3 duplexes, selling off 2 duplexes, and using the profit to enable the third one to be provided to a community housing provider as additional housing stock. For My Haven, we're supporting an organisation, James and Sarah, that uses the construction of housing to provide training and employment for long-term unemployed Aboriginal people. And then finally, Myrtle Park in Tasmania. We've funded the construction of affordable retirement homes. Now, in all these examples, we are partnering with organisations to achieve these end goals. It might be with an equity investor, it might be with philanthropic foundation grants, as Catherine talked about. Often it's actually just with volunteer organisations. And it's through those partnerships that we create sustainable and resilient social enterprises. And the key thing here is those organisations, they've all tried to access mainstream finance and they've not been able to. What SEFA is doing is providing finance that otherwise wouldn't have happened. So these projects would not have happened without our support. And it's our recognition of those partnerships, volunteer partnerships, and the depth of community support that each of these organisations have that makes them a resilient organisation. And as a commercial lender, because we lend on commercial terms, that means they are good borrowers. We don't mind that the mainstream doesn't recognise that. We do. So that's what SEFA is about. So we're building a good track record here. But what I'm really delighted about with the launch of this Affordable Housing Fund is we're now going to build on this expertise, partner with the Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation to now create new innovative projects in Victoria. And we're very, very keen to do that. So that's the main pitch. I do have application forms. We're very keen to deploy the capital. There's no point in it sitting on anyone's balance sheet. This is meant to be for purpose. But finally, I would just like to say we see this as just the start. 3 million is a fantastic amount, but we want that to be the start. We want to support innovative projects that can be replicated and scaled. So I'm delighted to launch it today, but I want to be clear that it is just the start. We will be looking for further partnerships and further opportunities. But many thanks, and thank you, Catherine.